Hi, I'm Jessica Cameron. I am an independent filmmaker as well as an actress and most commonly known as a scream queen. You also might recognize me from my brief stint on reality TV on a TLC show that was quite popular a few years back. I have been a part of over 100 different productions. I've produced 10 or 11 films at this point, directed 3. So I've got a little bit of experience, and social media has played a huge part of not just my life, but also of my career, and also financing films.
She knows a lot more than she's saying, so just you want to ask her some questions. But my name is Michael Kehoe. I'm a writer-director. My first film went to Sundance. It was a little short film about suicide. And from there I did a couple of features, and the latest feature I did was called The Hatred, which is a little horror film that I've never done a horror film before. It was distributed by Lionsgate, and I wrote a feature and took a scene out of it, and we did a short film which ended up winning almost 40 awards all over the world, and that's what got us the feature. So we're here to talk to you about you as a filmmaker, as an actor, whatever, and the opportunities and avenues you can take to promote yourself, your film, and whatever else that you want to get into. So we'll make it happen. Anyone?
Just at any point in time, if you guys have any questions, feel free to raise your hand and we'll get to you, because I want this to be as interactive as possible. Obviously, you guys are here to learn a thing or two about social media, so we want to cater to whatever questions that you guys have. I'll just fill in the dead space. So we'll start with, you guys mentioned that you have all used social media as a big part of campaigning and getting your projects off the ground. Why don't you tell us a little bit about specifically maybe the last project you did and how social media played a part in that?
Well, it actually, the last movie I did, it didn't play such a large part on, but the first and second, it was crucial. Basically, for the first film I did, we raised the budget, but not enough, as I think a lot of you guys can relate. Independent filmmakers, and I definitely fell into that category. And the first couple times getting behind the camera was like, oh my God, we have this amount of money, yay! And I broke down the numbers and I raised X amount that I thought I needed. And then you kind of get into pre-production and you realize, oh crap.
You always need more.
You always need more, right? You're like, oh, well, this is erring on the side of like more than, everything's just a little bit more. So we needed a little bit more money. So we sought out a crowdfund campaign, Indiegogo. Is what we did the first time, and that was in 2013. And it worked really, really well for us, and also sort of created this wonderful, loving, loyal fan base of the film, which I think really, really helped, which is something that people don't talk about with crowdfunding. I think enough is that you build in the fan base with the film along the journey, which I think can be really helpful. And then the second film that I did as a cross-country road trip because I wanted it to be authentic, and we did a small crowdfund traditionally and also ran a crowdfund privately through the website with basically people that we had gathered in email from the first crowdfund that we had did, and that was also very successful. As a note to that, I basically wanted to see if we could do it on our own and avoid the fees that Indiegogo and Kickstarter charge, because I don't know if you guys are aware of that. They charge anywhere, I believe it's 6 to 9%, depending upon if you get your goal or not. And I basically wanted to see if I could bypass that system, which, side note, yes, you definitely can, but you pretty much spend the same amount of money on web developers and people to like make a website that's like interactive and engaging. So it was more of a testament of just why not to do it that way. Pay Indiegogo or Kickstarter their percentage. It's easier.
How many filmmakers are here? Like, are fantastic.
It's Hollywood, everyone.
Awesome. All right. So basically, if you haven't started, even if you don't have a script, if you just have an idea, but you know that this is what you want to do, you want to start gathering your audience like yesterday. So when, very briefly, because I know I don't have so much time, but I had been working on this project for like 5 years, and it was from another producer, writer, and I was like on board, and I was the front guy and going to be the lead and all this kind of stuff, and I put in like a lot of time and effort to get the funds and whatnot for it and get it lined up. So long story short, when money was potentially real, the other person kind of like, you know, this is my film, I'm going to do what I want, and you have no control, and I can take it whenever I want, and, you know, and so he kind of like lost his mind. So that went away. And so at that point, I was in my backyard, and I'm, you know, walking around and I'm kicking shit and I got a couple of cocktails in me and my wife is inside and she's like doing the same thing because we just wasted 5 fucking years, in this project. And so like, and I walk inside and she's like walking around going, "Preacher," like that. And I'm like, "What are you doing? That's weird." And she's like, "I know, but it's cool." Yeah, and she starts running this idea, past me about this preacher, and so it ended up being Preacher 6. And so I'm like, well, look, I know how to do this because we had just done The Chair, which is I learned from Peter Cimenti, like how to do the whole, crowdfunding thing. So we decided to do it ourselves. So everything that I had learned, we decided to do on Preacher 6. And started that day, I opened up the Twitter. We didn't have a script, but it's like we have an idea and we're going to fucking do this. So I started gathering followers that day. So you follow like 1,000 people a day. And so I know I can tell you that, and you're going to either do it or you're not. But that is how you do it. It's like every time you follow somebody, it's like a little commercial into who you are, And so they're either going to follow you back or they're not. So, but the ones who don't, it doesn't matter because they're not going to know that, that you give a shit or not because they're not following you. So then eventually you can unfollow them and continue that cycle. And so like every little follow is a little commercial about who you are. And then you build your audience. Because what does the studio do? They pay bazillions of dollars to put themselves in front of you. So spending bazillions of dollars. So if you can do that for free, then that's how you build your own studio, is by introducing yourself one at a time. So like what I do on my Twitter, which is at Kyle D. Hester, if you don't follow me already, I like a little bit personal, this is what I think, this is who I am, I put my mother's from Norway, so I'll put like Viking shit on there, because that's like interesting and that's part of who I am, and then you hear about my films, so that it's like you have a personal engagement as well as a, hey, you do movies too, that's really cool, so, yeah, fuck yeah, I'll buy a t-shirt for $25, so that you have like a personal and professional thing, so you build your audience like you were talking about, and they're invested in you as a person as well as professionally. So here. I get like talk for hours.
I think it's called social media for a reason. So you want to reach out to other people, and the advice or the journey that I took was I'd made a few films, but I never did a horror film. And so when you're starting off with a film, because ultimately it's your film that you want to get out there to get you more work. You can have 1 million followers, but if you're not doing anything, it doesn't mean anything. So the thing to do is to find the genre of your film and start interacting with those people in that genre. Podcasts, magazines, and follow them, and also see who they're working with. If there's somebody that's doing a film that has a wonderful DP, find out that and interact with them as well. What I did was, as I said before, I wrote a feature, and then I took a short film out of that. I took one scene out of that had a beginning, middle, and an end. And then we entered that into all the film festivals. And it ended up getting almost 44 million hits. So that generated, for the film, it generated more interest. Did I build all the followers that I wanted? Not yet, and not at that point. However, I've been engaging with other people during the course of time. So I think that if you as a filmmaker, if you want to do something that starts you off, I think you want to make a short film, find out the genre that you want, take it from the feature that you're doing, shoot that, make it the best, and don't just throw it together, and don't make a film just for the sake of making a film, because you wouldn't have a baby for the sake of having a baby, And I think that once you get that in position for that, then you follow through and find out what other filmmakers are doing. So if you're doing a horror film, find out exactly how she followed through. Find out, look at her page, look at the things that she did. If you wanted to do a Western, you'd go through the same route. I think it's important to find out what other people are doing, because you see the success from that. And, you want to make sure that your site is about what you're doing as far as your career. You don't want to say, I got drunk and threw up on my dog last night. nobody wants to know about that, For the,
I disagree. I want to see that. Take video, please.
So, I do think that it's an important factor of making your career, first and foremost. You can still have a personal page, and use all the platforms. Use Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter on that, and get as much word out as you can for yourself, and what you're doing. And also, one of the things that you can do on your smartphone, there's a thing called Fonto. I don't know if you know it. It's Phonto. And you can take an image and you can put text on that image. You can also create, whatever the text that you want and the tone of the picture as well, changing whatever colors. And then you can put that out there to promote things. Like I did it this morning. I took an image from, I think it was, It's a Mad, Mad, Mad World. And there's a picture of all the characters looking down in the hole. And all I said was, everybody wants to know what's going on with the films here at first glance. And I think it's important to be creative for yourself as well, because the more that you do and the more you can make people laugh or get interested in what you're doing, that ends up giving them the interest of following you and getting into it. So I hope that helps.
Can I add something? Okay. I'm always a little bit controversial if you don't know me. I'm very opinionated and I swear a lot. So also if we have children in the audience, I'm so sorry. So two things. Caveat about your note, which is following 1,000 people a day and then unfollowing is considered a black hat marketing technique, which means it is technically frowned upon and does not meet Twitter's standards of service. So I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying when you do things that are against the terms of service, be aware that you're doing it so that you understand if you can lose your account, you can get blocked if you do it too aggressively. There can be limitations set to your account. So note that. Not saying don't do it. I'm just saying understand when you're doing something that's not supported by the system that you're doing it on, because we don't own Twitter, obviously. They allow us to have an account. Understand the limitations to that. Also, I would say for me, I don't necessarily believe in opening up pages for films when you just have an idea. I have 7 scripts written. I have 6 films in development. I don't have time to run pages for all, so I build the Jessica Cameron brand. So again, depending upon where you're at, that also might be an alternative. It might not. If you have one film that's your entire life, by all fucking means, devote every second to every day. But also note, don't neglect you yourself as a brand, because that will help you further down the road on the next movie and the next one. And then as far as short films, I see a lot of shitty short films, so caution to that. I think he's the exception to the norm. What you did is amazing and worked for you. Let me just throw some numbers at you. In 2014, there were 650,000 shorts that were released. I find the number of shorts that lead to feature opportunities are virtually nil in 2019. So again, if you have a short that you really want to make, or he happened to have a scene that had a beginning, middle, and end that was a really strong, brilliant short, that's great. That's very uncommon. As somebody who reads a lot of scripts, sees a lot of movies, most of you will not have a feature film script that you can pull a scene from that has a beginning and middle and end that will do well on a festival circuit. That's just the reality. If you do, by all means, that's a great fucking way to go about it. But I see a lot of shorts and filmmakers think they're amazing and they do nothing. And that's usually why, because it's a good scene in a feature and they're not pushing it. I tend to believe that in 2019, the low-budget indie is what shorts were prior to all of the changes in around 2009 to 2010, right? Because I find one of the things that I get asked first and foremost in any investor meeting or producer meeting is what's the ROI on your films, the return on the investment. And shorts are an automatic financial loss, right? For the most part, virtually nobody can sell them. Yes, there's the odd airlines that do buy them, and there's a couple distribution companies that will, but for the most part, shorts don't recoup their income. So again, you go into these meetings, you're already kind of not in the best footing because you've lost ROI, not made it, versus you go in with a really great $10,000 feature film where you've made $30,000, which is not a lot of money on a film. However, that's also a 300% return on the investment. I think that has stronger weight than having a short that didn't recoup the investment. But to each their own. I'm just saying different perspective. And I think the other thing to keep in mind is whether you run a short or a feature through a festival run, it's going to be a full-time job for a year or more, right? Mm-hmm. at least. So really make sure that you effing love it. And I've met so many people who don't love the short they made. They just thought it would lead to opportunities that it did not lead to, and thought magic would happen, which did not happen, and begrudgingly kind of wasted basically 2 years of their life doing it. Don't do that. Find whatever you're passionate about and really do that, so that if nothing comes from it, at least you can be like, you know what? I stand behind the project. It was effing great. It's everything I wanted it to be, and I love it. And at least that way, like I said, if your idealistic goals don't come true, you can stand behind it was in your heart to make this project, whether it be a short or a feature. So those are my 2 cents.
Let me just say one more thing, and I agree with her totally. You have to remember that you're investing your time into this, so you're not going to do something, as I said before, just to do it. I did some research, and when I wrote the feature, it took me a long time. I made the short for $600, but I got all my friends that I've worked with on major films to come in to help me, because I had this idea to do it. And doing a short film, if you're going to do a horror short film, you're going to get more attention than you do a drama, because the drama is an exercise for the actor. So you want to make sure you pick a genre, whether it's a thriller or whatever. There's 3 short films that did very well and ended up becoming features. Lights Out, I don't know if you saw that. Mama, which Guillermo del Toro ended up picking up. But there was time spent on that. It's just not something you throw. And you want to get an incredible DP. You want to have movement with the camera. You want to do something that looks like a feature. You don't want to do something that you shot on your iPhone, or a cheap, shitty camera.
It's really good at it.
You want to, we used an Alexa because it picked up every little piece of light somewhere in the darkness. And when I shot that, I told my DP, I don't want any lights. We're shooting at night, in the dark, in a house. And he flipped. He said, it's not possible. And what happens is there's a blackout and there's fire in a fireplace, but then she goes upstairs into a dark house. So we ended up using a flashlight that bounced off the walls and gave us the light that we wanted. So be creative, find out how you want to do it. If you do a short film, know that the short film it could not go anywhere. But if you want to just do it just to put in festivals to get your feet wet, that's fine. But we before we went out to festivals, we were going to studios. I went to Blumhouse, and we ended up getting interest from Blumhouse because of that. But other things happen. Other things can control your destiny for that.
Mike, I want to. This is like so much information.
Okay.
It's awesome. I do want to reel the conversation back towards social media just a touch, though,
Yeah.
as opposed to filmmaking itself, because that's what we're here for. So, I think the takeaway message here is that make the best film that you can, but it doesn't matter how good your film is if you don't have an audience to watch it, right?
Correct.
So I like how you were saying about it's important to build your audience, build a following, so that by the time you have something to promote, by the time you have things to pitch, a trailer, a poster, etc., you already have a built-in audience that are ready to watch it, buy it, invest their time, invest their money, crowdfund for upcoming projects, add them to the database. Let's talk about a little bit more about what's your favorite platform? What's your favorite social media platform and why for whichever phase of filmmaking?
Well, because it becomes like a full-time job for whatever you're doing on social media. For me, it's like I'll spend, when I'm not shooting or doing something like this, I'm spending at least 4 or 5 hours a day just on interacting with the audience on Twitter. So it's like I've kind of hired myself as my own, social media guy. So maybe at some point I will not have to do that, but it's like at this point I have to do that. So Twitter is what I do. So it's like I don't have time really for anything else. It's like I'll put on, posts on Instagram or, Facebook. The algorithms are so dead. It's like you basically, your friends will see what you post, but it's not going to go viral, and you're not going to have like a bunch of other people on Facebook, finding out about your movie. Even if you build a page, because like those algorithms are so diminished, so they want you to pay for the exposure. So how do you do it for free? So what I found is that Twitter is the best platform to do it. And yes, building an audience without having a script is risky. I'm just saying that's what I did. and we have a film in the can. So it's in post-production now. You can go see trailers on YouTube if you want. We have 3 of them out, to Preacher 6. But I think that basically for like how do you build your audience without being random? And so if you are interested in Twitter, it's like here's an idea that you could do. Go to someone's page that is similar to you or similar to the genre that you want to attract. Then they do a post, and then the people click like on that. So the people that clicked like on that post today are active today. They're on Twitter right now. So you go and you follow those people. So if 20 people click like, you go follow them. And that way you're not like randomly following people that you don't know, who they are if they're interested, because you already know, hey, they're following Dave Vecchio, who's got like 500,000 followers, and he does his own thing. And so, follow people that click like on his stuff because they're interested in that actor, and he's kind of like me. And so, so that's one way you can do it, and then, or a movie that's similar to a movie that you're doing. And as far as like genres and having a page for each, the reason that I do that is because I'm like a chameleon. So it's like you're not going to find that like everybody that's interested in like either horror or Western is going to, because some people could give a shit about horror, some people give a shit about Western. It's like they want to do what they want to do. So you have something for each. But that's just if you want to put that kind of time into it, because it is a big energy thing to do. So.
But it seems like a smart way to spend your time, right? Like it's targeted, you're like targeting your audience, so to speak. You're finding people that naturally have demonstrated that they would engage, that they are interested in the things that you're making.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. What about you, Mike? What's your favorite platform to use?
I use YouTube as well, but I have kids, twin boys, that, they have Instagram implanted in their brain. And what I think, to do is what you were saying earlier about making yourself a brand. It's important because people are going to follow you, whether you do horror or a thriller or a comedy, and you want to engage that. You have to be careful of who you follow. If someone follows you, you do have to look in there, because they could be somebody that can destroy you, or there's somebody that's a pedophile or something like that, and they just you have no idea. So when you go through, you look at the page, you look at what they've done in the past, and then it's just doing research. If you're just like the type of person that says yes, 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 then you're going to do the same thing with a film, and you're going to go nowhere. I think it's important to gain whatever information you can in your research, whether you do Twitter or Instagram or Facebook or even YouTube. And sometimes you can connect them, so you can do double, one shot, kill 2 birds. So I think that's a way to think about, how you go.
I agree. I love Twitter is my number one. So for the record, it doesn't get a lot of press, right? They're not dicking around. They don't like to fuck with the people, like they're people that use their platform as much. That's why you don't see them in the press often. Facebook, Instagram, as we all saw based off of the outage yesterday, really likes to change things up, which is also why I don't like it. You hit it on the head. Their algorithm changes drastically. We actually don't know how often it changed last year. I have to assume somewhere around 1,000 times the algorithm changed. I know for a fact that YouTube changed over 200 times their algorithm, which basically means the algorithm is how people receive the content that you create on that platform. So the more the algorithm shifts and changes, the more you should be trying to keep up with it. The harder it is for you to keep up with, the harder it's going to be for you to make an effective reach without paying for promotion. And you hit the nail on that head. That being said, don't be afraid of small paid promotions on Facebook and Instagram. I do think it can help you. And let's be also clear, if you have 1 or 2 projects, absolutely you should make Twitter all of that, even if like your early stages, for the record. I stopped because I have social media pages for myself, my production company, Small Town Girl Productions, Truth or Dare, Mania, Lilith, An Ending, Kill the PA, and then several projects that still are financing that I have closed down for the time being because, again, it's not so current. So running 7 pages on Facebook and Twitter is very time consuming, which is why I haven't added to that. Like, I have 5 more films in prep or, various stages of funding. I personally cannot handle that weight. If you have yourself, your production company, and 2 movies, you should figure out how to handle that 110%, whether they're financed or not. It will help you. That said, Twitter I love. Their algorithm doesn't change. Basically, you make a post, you have 280 characters. Anybody that subscribes to you will see it if they're on at that time. I love it. They also don't care if you push it from other sites. So a fun little fact about Twitter. If you share a link to another site, their algorithm doesn't hurt you for that. Facebook and Instagram do. They want you to stay on the platform. They want you to promote within the platform, which is where if you have a Facebook page and you share a link to your trailer on YouTube, you've probably noticed you get a very small organic reach. It's because Facebook is saying, we don't like the fact that you're taking people to YouTube. We're going to decrease it unless you pay us money. That's effectively what they're doing. Twitter doesn't care, which is why I love Twitter, because they don't care. You post it, people who subscribe to you see it, done deal. Fine. Now, something else to think about is I do think what doesn't get talked about enough, and I'm going to hit on it here, is that each social media platform does require a different type of interaction. So in a nutshell, Twitter, you have 280 characters. Think about it as though you're walking around a party and you're giving your thought into various conversations, right? Or you're starting a conversation. It's not meant for you to make a 2-paragraph event. If you have to write it in more than 280 characters, chances are you don't need to say it. If it's related to professional, you can do it in 280 characters more often than not. That being said, it's a really great way to stay in touch with people. Is just like giving your 2 cents here, and I think that goes to brand building, like you were saying. Find people with similar films, et cetera, and engage in the conversation. There's now something that is being referred to as rich replies in Instagram world, which is basically, and Instagram is also Facebook. For those of you who don't know, they're bought by the same company. Most of the algorithm shifts mirror one another. So a rich reply, what does that mean? Facebook and Instagram, if somebody comments on a photo or video or anything that you have, you want to reply in minimum 4 words that are typed out, not a copy and paste response. Because that, according to the algorithm, shows that you're engaging in actual conversation as opposed to some of the bots. It's basically their way to try to prevent all those foreign bots that you see that slap down an emoji, because you can buy that for cheap. And Facebook and Instagram have clued into that. So something along the lines of, thank you so much for watching. When you see a trailer, that's rich engagement versus like a heart, not rich engagement. So rich engagement will get you far in the algorithms. And even though it's not required on Twitter, I think it's just better for brand building personally. I know that when I see that somebody took the time to reply in a meaningful, thoughtful way, that endears them more to me than just like a smiley face. And don't get me wrong, you look to my Twitter and be like, bitch, you fucking give smiley faces all the time. Yeah, damn right I do, especially on Follow Fucking Friday where there's 800 tweets I have to send out. Yeah, I do. So again, time management is crucial when it comes to that. But Twitter, like I said, is overlooked. And you can also share your Facebook and Instagram can push to Twitter, and Twitter does not care. They will not hurt you. You cannot push anything else to Instagram or Facebook, for the record, because they will hurt you algorithmically from it. You have to make a separate post. Oh, in 1 second. You have to make a separate post because algorithmically they don't want you sharing from their site. They want you living on their platform. And then the third note about Instagram, if you guys don't have enough time in the day, I strongly advise Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram way the fuck down there. Instagram certainly for brand building is helpful. For films, I don't find it so. Instagram doesn't have a click-through algorithm, anything to do with it, unless you have over 10,000 followers. That being said, also, because it's such a select amount of people on the platform that have that, consumers are not in that habit of doing it. I like to think of Instagram as window shopping without anyone actually purchasing. So I always look at what am I trying to get out of this equation, right? Chances are if you're a filmmaker, you want people to buy the movie, engage with the movie, share press on the movie, watch a trailer. You have a tangible objective, right, that is numerically correlated. You can see how many people view your trailer. You can see how many people bought your movie, how many people bought your t-shirt. Instagram to me is so low on the scale as far as what people will purchase. It's really not worth focusing on as a filmmaker for me, which is where I did an Instagram for my first film, put into that my time was better spent on Twitter and Facebook. I won't ever do it again for another film likely unless it's a requirement of the investors. I do it for my brand. It's important to be like, hey, look at me. I'm having so much fun on set. Best selfie out of like 700 I took, you know. But again, there's not the click-through. They're not like the follow-through. Versus on Twitter and Facebook, you can actually see people really honestly doing what you want as opposed to just window shopping. So keep that in mind. You had a question, sir.
I was just with YouTube and Instagram. Does the algorithm allow you to link from one to
No.
the other?
Well, here's the thing. You absolutely will have to share your YouTube on other pages, right? You basically do because people aren't using it as a social media yet. I do think that's where YouTube is going. But as of right now, people aren't using it as a social media platform. They're using it as a video sharing service. So you will need to share your YouTube links somewhere. Again, not so much on Instagram because you can't. You have to basically upload it natively. Where I think the best thing I think to do is typically edit snippets of the video that's on YouTube, put previews of them on Facebook and Instagram that are formatted in their squared format. It's not required for you to have a square format video on Facebook yet, but numerically it pushes out to the highest amount of people as far as video content, and it gets the highest amount of engagement over traditional video, which as a filmmaker, by the way, that fucking kills me. But the numbers show us that's your smartest move.
Yeah, there's a reason for that too.
Oh.
It's I don't want to take the mic.
Okay.
It's just like because the amount of times people have to click. So it's like if they see a post on Twitter and you have a link to like YouTube video, then they'll have to go and click on that again. Whereas like with the embedded feed that's already there, and it's like they're just looking at it and go, oh cool, it's just playing. So I think it's one of the reasons.
Well, that's good to know. But that being said, also note, and I hear filmmakers boasting about this, don't get too excited. Your number of the views on any Facebook or Instagram, for that matter, are going to be drastically higher than what people actually watched it, because it counts it when you're scrolling through it. So just because it says 7,000 people watched that thing today, it doesn't mean 7,000 actually did. I'm not saying don't take pride in that. I'm just saying don't be like, oh, sweet, I don't have to do anything now. 700,000 people watched this. I know Michael only got, 400,000 people to watch his on YouTube, so I'm going to sit back because investors, no, not how that works, guys. So just take them for what they are. The number on YouTube means a lot more than everywhere else, because YouTube, you have to watch something like 80% of it at least for it to be counted as a one single view. The other platforms don't have anything in place to monitor that you are actually watching the content as opposed to scrolling past it.
Yeah, one other thing about that too is if she's doing a film and I look at the crew list of who's on there, and then I look at their account, I would engage them and promote her film and attach those people there. So now it's kind of like if I'm having a conversation and you're not around and you don't hear all the wonderful things I'm saying about her, you don't know and you won't engage me in a conversation. However, if I'm doing it in front of you and I'm talking to all of you about her and you worked on the film, then you'll say, oh, Mike said some great things about that. That's how that works there. And you want to be able to get into other people's accounts to say, I'm going to promote them plus all the people that worked with them. And then it's a give and get kind of scenario.
So kind of the more people that you tag onto the post. And what do you guys think about hashtags?
I have a love-hate relationship with hashtags. So let's be real clear. Hashtags are a searchable term. Okay? Horror is not a hashtag, mother effers. It's just not. It's a word. A searchable term. So independent movies, support independent movies, Women in Horror Month, all proper hashtags. Single words are not. Your hashtags should be as specific as you can make them for what you're doing that reaches an audience, right? Because, for example, if you hashtag horror films, even though it might apply, there's 200,000 posts that day that meet that, which means now you're like further down the list. So ideally you want to find the hashtags that work for you, that keep you higher up on the list, that engages people. And also don't neglect the comedic hashtag. Hashtag can be a nice way just to pin something. If you have a joke or something that's going on, even though it might not be a searchable term, it's just funny, and some of your audience might see that and it really endears them to you. So I think that's useful for that. That being said, for me, Twitter, I do as many hashtags as I can fit in the 280 characters, which is typically 2 to 3. Instagram, you can kind of go hashtag crazy. They don't hurt you algorithmically, although note the hashtags that are earlier do better than the hashtags that are last. And Facebook, I try to keep it at 5 to 6 maximum, because their algorithms don't positively show it helps you to do hashtags. And also further note that I prefer, whenever possible, to use hashtags inside of the text, like inside of the text, and not just at the end. So that's how I use them.
Yeah, that's important.
Cool. Any questions? No. Yes.
Yeah, I noticed some people actually put their hashtags in the comment section. Does that?
So right now, that's up for debate. So Instagram and Facebook are notorious silent in regards to telling the world what their actual algorithms are. The reason why they were doing that is because Facebook started to decrease the reach on anything that had too many hashtags, because they felt that it was basically spammy. We don't know if that shows a result or not. I will tell you that I've tested it out on Facebook and Instagram, both having it into the original comments as well as in the first comment. I do not find in 2018 or 2019 it makes a difference. People who I know have been active in social media swear that in 2017 it did make a difference. I don't think it makes a difference now. I would say just be more selective, keep it in that. That being said, it's also arguably like allowing you to have a comment. Obviously, if you have 10 comments on a post on either platform, it's better than having 5. So if 2 of them happen to be yourself, for the most part, platforms don't distinguish between your own comments or others, which is where on every platform you should be replying to every single person. Thank you so very much for watching. I appreciate it. For more information, go here. Oh my gosh, you like that? I did too. Or, posting engaging content like, what's your favorite horror movie? Somebody's like, I like this movie. Feel free to be like, that was horrible, and here's why. Or whatever your opinion happens to be. So again, I think the number of comments can help you greater than just hiding effectively where you're putting hashtags.
Jess, I like what you said about the engagement, where you ask the question and you encourage your audience and your followers to respond back to you and kind of basically bite, right? Do you have any other tips, tricks, advices for posts that seem to do better than others, or posts versus photos versus videos?
Well, and I think all of us you want to try to do what's not going to be a huge inconvenience to your life, but a variety of content. Right now, all of the platforms prioritize in this order. Live video is number 1. Anytime you can go live, you absolutely should. Second is video content. Third is photo content. And fourth is text. And that's on all platforms. And I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. So again, if you have something interesting, don't get me wrong, don't go live if you're sitting at home and you have nothing to talk about. That's boring AF. But you're at a premiere. That's interesting. You're on set and you have permission to go live. That's effing cool. You're in your makeup trailer. That's nifty. There's times and places to go live. There's other times where you can take a video, edit it, even if it's just on your phone, and upload something, or again, share a trailer. And then you get into cool looking photos, which, absolutely you can edit and make them look really snazzy. And fourth would be text. But again, for me, it's about switching them up also to make sure that the audience doesn't get bored. But again, there's not enough time in the day to be like, I'm going to do something interesting and go live 4 times a day on every platform. I'm sorry. I'm not that interesting of a human being. I'm just not. If you are, awesome.
And remember, you also want to consider yourself as a publicist, your own publicist. So if a publicist is actually in charge of a film, they're covering everyone, from the director, the producer, some of the crew members, the technicians that they can do. So you're going to cover that as well. So you have to really think of yourself as a publicist throughout your career, of promoting yourself as a brand, because that's what's going to gain, the attention for the product you went. Because you didn't come here just to be, known who you are. You want to be known for your films, and you want people to say, I want to see, this particular film. And as that continues, then you're going to be known as the person that you're going to say, just like you'd say, I'm going to see a Steven Spielberg film, or I'm going to see a Guillermo del Toro film. So that's what you want. You want to try to get your films out there and your work out there as the attention getter.
You guys have all mentioned how social media is a full-time job, especially during the pitching promotional phases after a film is done, or even in the parts where you're trying to raise funds for it and so forth. As a full-time job, do you guys ever outsource any third-party apps where it's it schedules it for you, or it helps you manage? I've heard that there are third-party apps out there that help you with that. Do you guys recommend any of those services or any of those apps?
Have you?
I've used those kinds of things before, but so yeah, you can schedule tweets on. There's a few different platforms that'll do that, but I think that unless you have something that's consistent or unless you want to think about, all right, I'm going to think about a bunch of tweets that I want to do that'll be really interesting and that I'm not going to have to do because I'm busy today, and then you can kind of schedule them so you can do it that way, but then you got to be super creative and like, how creative can I get, and schedule all these tweets for today. So, but I like to be a little more off the cuff than that. But I mean, I do find it's helpful, especially when you're running, like an Indiegogo campaign or something like that. So you can have like your first blast of a tweet and then schedule something for like 3 hours later that's a little bit different, but it's hyping it so you don't have to do it. Because what ends up being is each tweet is like it's like Twitter's like a radio station, so it's like if someone's on Twitter right now and they're going to see your tweet, but they're not going to go on later and then scroll through their tweet to see something that you did 4 hours ago. So it's like if you think about it like that, unless they go on your page and scroll through your page and they'll see everything you did. But it's like if you want to be consistently kind of engaging the audience that's on Twitter at the time, tweet something again. That's why somebody will say, well, don't like tweet the same thing. Well, somebody that is on now didn't see it earlier, so I'm going to tweet it again. And then you'll get that audience, again. So it's like you can do a combination, but I think there's a place for all of it.
So I actually love scheduling, for the record, but also like understand. I think also you have to do what's right for your schedule. So I shoot as an actor 9 to 15 projects a year, which is a lot. And then I always have my own stuff in production. So I have to schedule stuff just to make sure that there's enough hours in the day for me to sleep. That being said, the only one that I schedule on, there's several platforms. I prefer Hootsuite. I only schedule Twitter on Hootsuite. You can technically schedule the other ones. The reason why I don't schedule Facebook or Instagram, and you'll notice a trend when I say this, because their algorithm will hate you. So I schedule Twitter only on Hootsuite, and I schedule basically, again, like the stuff that I don't want to be remembered to share. You should share every film that you're involved with, their IMDb page, their website, their trailer, links to their reviews, like weekly, all the time. So guess what happens when you're like me and you have 20 films that you've acted in that are available for sale or watch trailers, right? Like it literally would be, I'd never actually work if I couldn't schedule. So Twitter scheduling is crucial for me. And then I schedule Facebook to the pages within Facebook. Now, a note to scheduling, your actual reach is decreased because you're not engaging with the fan base at the time that it posts typically. So you understand, it's better to post in real time if you can. Just I'm realistic to the fact that my schedule doesn't allow me to be able to do that 24/7. Also, for me, I have a fan base in London, England, and a few other territories, Australia, Scotland, Finland, Canada, Mexico. They're on different time zones. So, for example, like when I'm doing film festival runs, I always have films that are screening in places that are very contrast to my sleep schedule. So making sure that I'm hitting at like their 8 a.m. in Spain as opposed to like my 8 a.m. is crucial because people are most active, for the most part, on all of their social medias somewhere between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. The difference is Instagram. They're kind of an outlier in that regard. For the most part, that's where most of your traction is going to be. It's on a normal day. So if you're doing a movie festival in Spain and you really want to promote it, you need to make sure that the promotion that you're hitting and tagging the festival is happening during their traffic times and not like 4 a.m. their time, right? That's not going to help them. So scheduling for me has been really helpful for that. But again, the caveat is Instagram, I just don't bother scheduling because again, their click-through rate isn't worth the effort. Facebook, I schedule within Facebook on the pages, knowing the reach will be different. And I try never to go a day, for the record, where it's only scheduled content. It's always like scheduled with me coming in as well. But again, if I know, for example, it's 4 o'clock in the morning and I'm still on set, I'm going to get home at 5. I'm obviously not going to wake up at 8 a.m. to post. I might as well schedule something because the difference between having nothing and having something that's a slightly decrease in reach is beneficial for me. I also really like it for things that I forget to talk about. So for example, IMDb pages. I've been doing this a long time. I don't like sharing my IMDb page because it's really boring for me. That's just the reality of it. Not knocking IMDb, love them as a platform. It's just the last thing I want to do. So for me, I find it's so much easier for me to schedule. Yeah, I've shared my IMDb post a week for the next 6 months on Facebook. Done. You know, it might not be the most engaging content, but it's effing done. Or like on my films, sharing all of the IMDb pages of my cast and prominent crew, things like that. Or a review of a movie. A lot of the press and reviewers love me because of that. So what I effectively do anytime I get any press is I try to promote it typically once a week for the first couple of weeks, and I promote it for the record. If it's one of my movies, it gets promoted on my page, my personal pages, my movies pages, and then my production page. And then on top of that, I'll schedule it out every other week for a month and a half, and then I'll schedule it out once a month for another 6 months. So what happens typically is that review or that article that they posted with Jessica Cameron's little movie will get as much traction as much larger films and much more important people, because, John Carpenter's people are pushing it out once. We're pushing it out consistently. So when the year-end numbers come in, my press has done as good, and in some cases better, than much larger projects for that reason. And that also has endeared me to the press. And for the record, got me noticed with a lot of film festivals. I've never spent more than $1,000 on a film festival run, and Truth or Dare played over 50, and Mania played 38. So if you guys know film festival costs, that's a pretty spectacular job on $1,000 spent. And a lot of that is just the press, the marketing, the promotion. And also when you're properly tagging that festival in London, 5 other festivals will contact you and be like, we love everything you're doing. Come to our movie. Come here. Do this. And also like the amount that flew me out and put me up and covered my expenses because they saw me doing the work and doing the effort was a lot higher. So again, scheduling enables me to keep track of all of that. And also like make sure that for me, I'd rather be engaging with people like Harding or like going over to like super fan pages, like the people that are really engaged in your content. Go over to their page and like a bunch of stuff, right? Engage with them. For me, that's a better use of time rather than remembering to share my IMDb. I'd much rather like copy and paste like 5 different versions of, oh my gosh, like my IMDb page, See new projects, guess what I'm working on now? Schedule that out, have it automated so that I can engage in a more personal level. And that's really what works for me. So the takeaway of this for you should be figure out what works for you and make sure that you're doing it to the best of your abilities within your schedule. And also, when I first started, I was working a full-time job. I couldn't take time away, 9 a.m. till 8 p.m. I was at work. So finding ways to schedule was really helpful there because I could not, just leave my job and go do social media for my film. It wasn't allowed. So.
Yeah, I think you can't underestimate the power of like a personal connection, right? It's like the engaging with your audience. It's like that's what they want. They want to know that like they're being seen and they're being heard and they're being appreciated, and it's just gonna kind of be good. If anyone has one, yeah.
I know it's great. It sounds like it's great. Obviously, you want to use social media to kind of build your fan base. But in terms of like as a young filmmaker, finding investors and getting some any dollar amounts, like do you utilize social media at all to target people that might be able to help you create this movie as far as like investors, as far as people that like your money? I'd love to be a part of it in that sense.
Okay.
I'm going to preface this by saying I'm always really honest. Don't do that. No. Here's the thing. You're a filmmaker. Do you know how many millions of you there fucking are? No. You have to bring something to the table. And by the way, a great script with a revolutionary idea, yeah, there's 10 million of those fucking too. Those don't even fucking count. If it is really great, if it is actually exceptional, consider that a fucking wash against all the other people who have the same fucking thing. No. Social media is building a fan base, and then you bring that. That is your extra thing. No decent investor is going to want to waste their time on somebody who's never done anything, doesn't have a track record, has this one great idea, which, like I said, they can meet with any 10,000 people who have great ideas, who've made money back, who have a history, who have a fan base. You have to bring more to the table than that in 2019. You just do. Otherwise, every single person in this room would have made their dream project by now. Hell, I have a really exceptional $5 million idea. Trust me, if there isn't even, I would have done that too. So no, you can't. The one thing that you can use social media for, even while you're building your fan base, is again, finding those people that you've met along your path and your journey in life who might be in a position to help you fund a movie now. But again, you'll find those better when you start building your fan base and just engaging with people than by deliberately trying to seek out somebody to give you something that you haven't earned. So for example, when one of my friends was building her fan base, she found out like one of her friends from grade school was now really successful in their job. I think it was a physician of some type. And he was like, I've got $300,000. And over the course of her like building her brand in the first couple of years of her doing social media, they kind of connected and they got on the same page. And after a couple of years, he gave her $300,000 to make a movie. So that kind of thing can happen. But again, it'll happen organically while you're building your brand in a much higher rate of an outcome than if you try to use social media. Just be like, I'm going to find these investors, which you don't have followers, you don't have a track record, you don't have a history, you don't have anything, but you're trying to get in. Like, it's not a good use of time, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, I wanted to follow up on that. I mean, she's absolutely right. But don't go looking for the money. Go make your film or whatever you want to do, and make sure it's the best. One of the things I think that's important too, Film Freeway, which is a festival-based submission form. You can go in to that. It used to be without a box, but there was a fee for that the actual festival had to pay them. Film Freeway doesn't. And one of the things that I did early on, which they have your own page now that you can fill out to go in there. And when I called them, they're in Canada, I said, one of the things that's important for a filmmaker, as they're doing social media, they want to let people know about these festivals. And there's nothing anywhere that they can give a review for it. Well, because of that, Film Freeway now has a review form that you can go in and you can look at it. Because of that as well, what ended up happening was the Film Freeway also connected people who said, I was at this festival that you were at, and I want to let you know that I can turn you on to some financing. But, you have to have the film first. So you should go on to Film Freeway and then put your genre in and then scroll down to all the festivals all over the world and find out what you want. My advice is not to go and do film festivals that are online, some guy's in his pajamas watching your film and he's going to print out a certificate,
How to get your film torrented.
Right. You want to be with people. You want people to see your film. Even if there's 10 people in the theater, it doesn't matter. You want to get it out there. Mm-hmm. So, having said that, you should have some questions because we're here now to help you.
I'm going to piggyback on everything they just said and say that do whatever you want to do. Like seriously, whatever. Like you never know where you're going to find funds, for a film. So I think the key is just being authentic with whatever you're doing, whatever your thing is. So it's like for me, my thing is just, like I said, I'm kind of a chameleon, so I never really look the same. So I don't have like a thing that I can say, this is who I am. I do this. I do horror movies, or I do action films, or whatever the thing is. It's like, so it's just, that's why I'm just like kind of as authentic as I can be, and whatever project that I'm doing, I'll talk about that project, so you can go on my Twitter and you'll see what I'm talking about. So I'll talk about, like, I have 9 different films I'm talking about, and I'll put on, what I think, and I'll talk about Trump, because I don't give a shit, because it's like, you're going to find out who your audience is. A lot of people tell you, like, stay away from politics and stay away from this and whatever, but I think that the more genuine you are, you will find your genuine audience that's going to care about you, so, and I think that becomes the key. I mean, I had been doing The Chair, and they did Zombie with a Shotgun, and this woman, Jamie White, had been kind of following me. I'd never talked to her, didn't know who she was, but she would just like following me, on Twitter for all this time. And then like, I'm down to like the final campaign for Creature 6, going like, how am I going to get this fucking film made? Because I need to raise like a lot more money, and it was just like dragging and like pulling teeth. And so she DMs me and it's like, hi, I would like to help. How can I help? And I was like, well, we need this. And it's like, oh, really? I was thinking more like this, which was more than I had been thinking. So it's like, you never know where it's going to come from, But I mean, so I've never gone out and like, looking for, entrepreneur, investor, type, and then try to zone in on those people, because it never works out, like that. It's like it'll come from unexpected places, but just be genuine, talk about your shit, do your thing, be authentic, and you'll find your audience and, blaze a fucking trail, man. So that's what I got.
Yeah, I feel like we all wish there was a rule book, right? Like a how-to manual on how to make films. But if that were the case, then we'd all be successful filmmakers. Luck strikes, right? We can't underestimate the power of luck. We have like -4 minutes here, but I just want to get a really quick answer because I know money is going to be a big question. With crowdfunding, I know you guys have all crowdfunded before. What percentage would you say are people that you have a connection with versus complete strangers? Just to go to show like how important this engagement and connecting with people are. Out of all the crowdfunding, what percentage is people that you have developed a rapport with?
80%.
80.
Yeah, I'd say somewhere like 80 to 90% for the record, and that's why you see so many failed campaigns.
I never did it.
That's because he knows everyone really well. All right, well, it just goes to show you got to connect with people, right?
Yeah.
You got to develop an audience, you got to connect with your audience, and they're going to be loyal to you. So thank you guys so much for coming to the first part of our panel, social media. You guys will stick around for distribution. We will be here. We should get a support indie film swear jar up here in the next one.
Yeah. I thought I was bad.
I win.
I thought I was fucking bad.
All right, so thank you guys very much.